Hello, word nerds, and happy Sunday. Welcome to our book club chat. Today we are going to be discussing We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. Huge disclaimer at the beginning. The plot will be revealed. All of the spoilers abound. The warning is below. Don't get mad if you get spoiled. We are warning you now. Seriously, this book is kind of built around the twist in it. So if you don't want to get spoiled, turn back now. This is your warning. We're not going to wear spoiler mustaches because it would literally be the entire chat of spoiler mustaches. Warning over. We're going to start today with doing our ratings. I'm going to go the opposite on my screen. So Megan's going to start with what you thought about We Were Liars.
So this is an easy 5 for me. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of theories about the plot, and I think the number of theories that I had about the twist was why I didn't see the twist coming at all. So I turned to that page and it was like, what? And I think it was really awesome just because I could look back on it since I hadn't seen the twist coming. I could look, all the signs were there. And also I loved the writing. We were talking about this before. It is slightly more literary, but to me it's not excessively so, and so I just thought it was beautiful, and I loved it.
Yay! Kelly, you're next.
Okay, so I read it at Megan's recommendation late last year, and then I reread it this week, which was really interesting because, I don't know, I'm going to give it a 4.5, but I keep, flip-flopping because I've reread it and I don't know, but I'm sticking with my initial one because I really did love it, and I didn't see the twist coming, which I think was because I was just so engrossed in the writing, and I was trying to stop myself from thinking about it too much. I had some theories, but they were the ones that kind of spoon-fed you. Or oh, this is what we want you to think is happening. So I'm going 4.5. I really liked it. It wasn't perfect, but books that I can't put down are so hard to find, and that counts for a lot. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Emma?
Yeah, I'm giving it a 5. I agree with a lot of what Megan said. I think it helps that me and Megan and Kelly all read it pretty early on. I think when I read it, Megan was the only person who had recommended it to me. I didn't know much about it. But yeah, I really love it. I feel like I usually figure out twists in books, and I didn't figure out this one. I had a lot of theories, and I thought I knew what was going on, and then I didn't. And then suddenly I was like, wait, maybe I don't know what's going on, and I was like, oh yeah, I really didn't know what was going on. So that was a cool experience for me. And I did love the writing, because I felt like it was literary and it was beautiful, but it wasn't overly flowery, because I have issues with books that are just too poetic and too flowery to the point where I don't know what's happening in the story. So I liked that I knew it could follow the plot, but also it was really beautiful. So.
Erin?
I'm gonna give it a 5. Initially, I was gonna give it a 4 because after all was said and done, even though I did read it all in one go, I thought to myself, well, the twist wasn't actually as clever as I thought it would be. But when I think about it, I still did plow through it, and I didn't actually see it coming because of the way the writing was.
Yeah, I thought that too.
And I think that taking something that's not necessarily that clever and that has been done before and making it something that most people aren't going to see coming is huge. And it really means that the author has a lot of talent. So that's why it's a 5 for me.
Kaylin?
I'm going to stick with my 3. I'm giving it 3 stars, which means I did like it, I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. I had a bunch of different theories, and I'm actually the opposite of Emma. I never guess the ending of anything, and I guessed this, so I don't know if that had a play in my non-shock value at the end. But I think, I'm going to stick to 3.
And I'm going to give it 4 stars. I originally, once I read it, I actually got my copy from Kelly. She sent it to me, and she said, you have to read this. And I said, okay, I will. And everyone was already talking about how amazing the twist was, so I had really high expectations for it. So once I finished reading it, I think I was still in that aftershock of, that was amazing, and I gave it 4.5. But I think 4 is more accurate because like some other people said, like I did guess what was happening. I was emailing Kelly as I was reading it, and I said, I think I figured out the ending. And I think I might have mentioned what it was before I got to the ending. She's like, I can't tell you how it ends. But it was still like the writing was something that I've never read writing like that. Like it was really unique in how the voice of the character was, and just the entire writing. It's like a concise book, but a lot happens. So I kind of liked that it was dense but small, you know?
Yeah.
Definitely the type of thing you open it and just be prepared you're not going to shut it again until it's
Yeah, it's gonna, and they're short chapters too, so that makes it even harder to walk away because it's only another page. It's 2 pages, and then you're at the end of the book and you're like, oh god, it's tomorrow. Well, that happened.
I wanted to comment on what Erin said about, like, you didn't think it was that kind of book. 'Cause I think that's what threw me the most. It seemed so contemporary.
Yes, exactly.
So, like, it never even crossed my mind that, okay.
I think we need to come out with it. Here is the major spoiler of the book. The twist ending is, of course, that they're dead. Spoiler alert! The main character, the main character is alive. It is the liars who are dead. Hence the past tense of they were liars. They're not currently liars. But now they're dead.
And one thing I liked about this book is that there were multiple twists.
Yes,
yeah, because the other twist was that they burned down their grandparents' house, which I really was not expecting.
I didn't see that coming. And the dog thing killed me.
That's
the dog. Oh my god.
Kill a dog.
I hated
kill me.
That part was worse than the ending.
I'm like, I was more
because she kept reiterating and describing how, oh my god, how would the dog be locked in that room begging? I'm like, no, no,
for me, no. I predicted that they were going to be dead, and I told Kelly. Mostly because, like, I love reading and writing ghost stories and dead people stories, so I was like, all the signs are there. But I also, when I got to that part where she realizes that they burned down the house and that the dogs died, I was like, oh, I guess that's it. Like, I thought that was the twist, was they burned down the house. So I thought that I was like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. I guess they're alive. And then they're dead. I'm like, I knew it!
Also, somebody told me that she was an unreliable narrator, and like she kind of is. But I was like thinking that she actually did remember, and she was lying to me the whole time.
She's a liar.
That's kind of what I expected. See, that's a really good place to start. Why were they called liars? Because that was said in the very beginning, before the accident, before anything happened.
I think
she said
they pretend
that they were called the liars. Why are they
pretend they're all right? They pretend.
Yeah, like they pretend that their family's okay. They put on those fake smiles.
But they say like other people
pretend that their money's okay.
Like,
the parents call the cousins liars.
Yeah.
Why would the parents do that if they're we're acknowledging that they're not really okay?
Yeah. I mean, I think that that's one thing that we didn't get a ton of background on that part. Like, we got background on just kind of in general, like, their relationships, but we didn't get a lot of background on, like, how they interacted with their parents. So I just kind of assumed that they, like, lied to their parents a lot and, like, often, like, caused trouble.
I don't know. I feel like if that's going to be a major point in the book, it needs to have
that's going to be the
bit
title.
more momentum.
Yeah.
Because for me, none of the lying really started until the accident happened. And then, you know, it wasn't really so... Well, she did lie a little bit to her parents when she went back to the island. But that's really where it all started. Like, I don't understand why they were called liars before. That's what kind of, like, was always in the back of my head. I was waiting for an explanation that I never actually got.
Yeah,
I think
I guess for me, like, I never really cared about the explanation of that. I feel like the title was, it was referring to the fact that they were called liars, but it was also referring to the fact that, like, everyone was lying to her.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Like, it was about the whole family being liars. Because, all the book does say is the family calls us for the liars, and we probably deserve it. So, like, I just kind of assumed that they, like, lie to their parents about things and, like, get into trouble. And I guess for me, that part didn't matter too much, why they were called that.
Well, I definitely thought that the whole liars thing was because, like, and the whole time it was actually frustrating to read because her mother and her aunts were like, don't talk about the accident. Like, I'm not going to tell you. I kept telling you and you kept forgetting. And I'm like, I want to know.
I think it is, like, I think it is, like, an interesting twist, like, contrast, where at the beginning they didn't necessarily deserve the title of liars. but by the end, as they were trying to be more open and honest, they became like significantly more intense liars. That kind of like juxtaposition and turning it on its head.
I actually expected, like, when I first heard the twist, I thought it was like a Fight Club thing where she was just insane, not like actual ghosts.
Yeah, exactly.
That was one of my
I thought she was
theories.
just like hallucinating that they
Yeah.
Like a Amara Diamond
That's something she
situation.
very well could have been hallucinating.
But, well, because how they went into the ocean and disappeared, I was like, okay.
Yeah, that
It
was
is a
weird
lot
to me.
open for interpretation that it could be ghosts or it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that would make sense. Like, she's reconciled with the past, and now they're leaving her.
Yeah, it's
So
true.
it's going both ways. I think they were ghosts, but I could see it going both ways.
So
But
did
yeah,
you guys,
I liked what Kelly said earlier about like it really felt like such a contemporary that I was never expecting like a ghost thing.
No.
You know, that I was like, oh, it's gotta be something.
intentional, the tone and everything for like it's contemporary, and I was like,
Yeah.
no, it's not surprised.
So would you call it magic realism, or what would you call that as a genre?
I think it's still a contemporary.
I would call it
Still contemporary.
Paranormal
contemporary with a
contemporary.
paranormal twist.
Yeah, but you
So,
can't
like,
tell
if
people
you
that it has a
label it
paranormal.
like that,
Yeah.
yeah, it spoils everything. It's mystery contemporary, maybe.
Or like a
Because
thriller.
like the whole time I kept trying to guess what the accident was. Like even once I knew that they were dead, I was like, okay, what happened though? Like how? What's the accident that nobody will freaking talk about?
I was like cycling between. I thought either Gat had like raped her, or like one of her aunts.
what I
One of her
I
aunts
that
tried
was
to
the
like
theory.
kill her or like injure her so that she wouldn't get the money. I thought it was one of those two things.
I don't know what.
Yeah.
I my first gut instinct was she was raped because she was found on
Yeah,
the beach
same.
and like
Yeah.
just her underclothes and soaking
Yeah.
wet and blocked out everything that had
Yeah.
happened. And I was like,
Yeah.
And I, for some reason, I just never trusted Gat. Like, I just did not trust him. Like, even in the end, I
He
wanted
was
him to
too
either.
sweet. It was
Yeah, and he
too
was-
too much.
Yeah, and I was
I thought
expecting
of
it to be
that.
something like because he hated the like family's money so much that he would like attack her or something.
Yeah.
You know?
He
So-
always
Yeah,
talked
I
about how much he
totally-
hated being on the island. So it was like, but then once
Yeah.
it was actually spelled out in there, to where she actually said that out loud about like sexual assault, I was like, that's not a contender.
It can't
anymore.
be it. Yeah.
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 you showed your hand. That's not it.
And that was the point where I was like, maybe one of the aunts like wanted her like mentally injured or dead. So
Well, then yeah, because then they started going into the whole, the mothers were telling their daughters to like favor up to the grandfather, and it's like, what if like her aunt, was it Carrie, like attacked her or something because
There was definitely a lot of.
well, and one of the images she could remember from the accident was the like statue from her grandparents' kitchen. Like she kept talking about that statue, and so I was like, someone tried to hit her over the head with the statue.
Well, there was even the part of the argument that she overheard with Gat when they were hiding in the pantry.
Yeah.
So there was all this like sleight of hand and misdirection, like look over here, this could be an
Yeah.
issue, or this,
Yeah.
or this, or this, or this.
Yeah,
Like
and I
probably
think
not.
it needed to be that way. Otherwise, the ending would have been so obvious.
Yeah.
There were so
And
many
yet it
hints.
wasn't.
Yeah.
I think
Something I liked about it is that after I finished it, like I sat, because I was like, wow, that really surprised me. And then I sat there and thought about it and just started thinking about the book, and I was like, oh, there were all these hints that I just like wasn't picking up on because I was
There
like
really-
fooled by
One
these
of the
other
things-
things that
so
she wanted me to
many.
look at.
Yeah.
And,
One of the things Emma texted me, like after she finished, she was like, "Oh, her poor mother," like thinking that she's sitting in this apartment just talking to herself.
yeah.
Yeah, that's something I was going to ask. Did she ever interact with the liars, like, around her aunts and stuff? So
No.
The liars
No.
hung out in that house that
Like,
no
that's
one else
why-
went
Okay.
into.
I think what was the girl's name? I can't remember the girl's name.
Mirren?
Mirren. Like they went to, and this is when it was really set in for me. Like as soon as is it Katie, Cadence maybe? I just read the book and I've already forgotten the names. When she first gets back to the island after everything's done, and she sees them and they're not on the dock,
Mhm.
I immediately knew what was happening, and I blame this on my love for the Sixth Sense because I feel like I look for that in everything now.
I do feel like
That right away. That wasn't my giveaway because
That was my total
I was
giveaway.
like, they hadn't talked to her for so long. If I'm in an argument with like a family member, I'm not gonna be like, oh, welcome back. So glad to have you on the island where we're gonna be trapped together all summer. I'm gonna be like hanging back and
Right, but when she came back on the island, and they were very nonchalant about it. So it was like, well, if they didn't think it was a big deal, so if she's the only one that was really mad about the lack of communication. So
I thought it was misdirected pretty well, though, because, like, what I focus on in that scene is that right away they mentioned they weren't going to be going to dinner anymore, and what Caddy, how do we want to pronounce that?
Katie. I think Katie.
It's Katie.
Like me here.
What she was focusing on was the fact that they'd obviously discussed it before. So to me, I was focusing on, okay, something's
Yeah.
Yeah, the family.
Totally.
And then when you had all the
Misdirect.
family drama, you're like, oh, no wonder they don't want to go have dinner with their
Yeah.
family. It's kind of terrible. So I'd avoid it also.
Some of the imagery with her migraines was really interesting. With
Yes.
the witch with the porcelain like swan or whatever, and then wasn't there a swan mentioned later?
Yeah, they took it to the dock and they
Statue?
smashed all the ivory statues. And
Well, they mentioned it
was one of
before, and I was like, someone hit her with the duck. Someone hit her with the duck.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Totally what I thought the accident was, or the swan. But yeah, totally not what happened.
I kept doubting myself the whole way through.
Yeah.
So every time I got to a certain part, I was like, okay, maybe I'm wrong. But then I would get like a few chapters in, and then it would start clicking like, all right, so none of the liars have made any contact with the adults face to face. Katie hasn't mentioned the liars at all, wherein as a conversation
But she mentions
you would
them
mention it.
Like,
I know once she found out what happened, and then she went back to her house, and her mom was on the porch, and they were talking about it, and she said that she just came from the other house where the liars were. To me, in natural flow of conversation, like she should have said their names at least, like because they're the ones that told her. But then she did it, and I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure that's they're not alive.
It's funny because like, didn't one of the little kids say like they were scared of the house because there was creaking in it?
yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the little brothers said that it was haunted.
Give it away.
So yeah,
Very beginning, before you even got to the island. he said-
yeah. But so that's a point.
It's
for the fact
funny.
that they were ghosts rather than her imagination.
Right, and it's funny because I didn't even make that connection until you guys just said that. So really
That was my first take. I'm like, is this a
along the way.
ghost story? And then I looked on Goodreads to see how it was categorized, which I
Oh no!
yeah, I should have done that. I really should, but I wasn't spoiled still because nobody categorized it.
That's how
So I
I
was
got
like,
spoiled for The Fault in Our Stars. Is I was halfway through and I had to go on Goodreads to look something up, and it was out there for the world to see. So.
Something that I think is interesting, like, because Kaylin had such a different experience with the book than the rest of us, I think, is that Kaylin did read it last out of all of us. So she heard the most hype.
And that was
And also, you were the one that took notes in the book, and the rest of us didn't. So you
I
were like,
was, yes. So like whenever I reread books for the book club, I always try to take a lot of notes to have like
active reader.
and only for book club books. I'm wondering if I read this not taking as such extensive notes, if I would have seen it coming as fast.
Yeah, because you mentioned that you were like,
Also-
oh, here's this sign, oh, here's this sign, and I think it's, because
like
we were like,
the whole time I was looking for them and they jumped out, and it might be because I like to read these kind of books. Like I'm always into the horror genre, so like even contemporary, I'm like there could always be that twist, and this was one of
Well,
those
I was
that
expecting
had
such a
that twist.
contemporary read that I think that's why it completely blindsided me.
See,
And I've had that
In the
before when I
beginning-
expect something to be contemporary and it's not later on.
What
Yeah,
really
like,
threw
I
me
picked
off
it
of the
up
contemporary vibe was in the beginning when her dad left. I thought that he literally pulled out a gun and shot her in the
Yeah,
That's what I thought too. It took me a while to get away from that. Like that
too.
didn't
And then once I kind of like came down from that, I realized that like this isn't going to be your average contemporary read.
Yeah.
Like,
I really thought that he shot her. I'm like, well, that's
Yeah.
one.
So did I. And then I'm like, well, she's dead. That's the twist. Well, that was really fast.
Yeah, like when I
And that-
picked up the book, it was like my mom had taken me to Barnes & Noble and said I could pick out 4 books, and I was like, this is a dream come true. And I like saw it, and I was like, I think I remember people saying this one's really, really good. Yeah, definitely people have said this is really good, and it has a twist ending. And that was like all I knew, and I picked it up and I read it like that night. So it was like I had almost no preconceived notions about it.
We talked about this a little bit right in the pre-chat before we went live, but the hype built around it both helped and hindered the book because people were, like Kaylin, she was the last one, so she got the most hype out of everyone. She was really, really searching for that twist, and her expectations were like through the roof.
your head that there was a twist. So like if it's marketed or if somebody tells you, hey, there's a twist, you're gonna look in every nook and cranny for the twist, even if you don't mean to. Like, I was really trying to read this without even thinking about it. I just wanted to get to the end and like be surprised.
You take notes though, and you read critically.
Yeah, but it's also like
they just kept jumping out at me.
Marketing it as such this like twist ending, and it's never, you know, everybody's shocked about it. That did help bring more readers to it, because I don't know if I would have picked this up. Well, Kelly picked it up, but I don't know if it would have been a book that I would have like wanted to read if I hadn't heard people rave about this twist and how great it was. But that also did set my expectations higher than they would have just going into it knowing nothing. So it's kind of like it helps, hinders, a little bit of both, depending on how critically you're reading it.
And I think I was like thinking about it during the pre-chat when like we were kind of talking about like, oh well, the they're all dead twist has been done before, and then I was like thinking about it and I was like, well, like what twist hasn't been done before? You know, like what has been done that like we wouldn't be able to compare it to some other twist. Like it's going to have been done before, and I think it was done well at least.
Exactly. That's why I kept my 5-star rating rather than bumping it down to a 4, because it has been done before, but she did it in such a way that it was really skillful.
Yeah, and like when this did it, they did it. It's been done before. It's just everyone, like the ones that handle it well are the ones that stick out.
Yeah, exactly. This is only the second book I've ever read that's done this twist. I've only read one other that had it.
And I think like after like the late 90s, early 2000s, when it was like The Sixth Sense and other spoilers, if you haven't seen those, but like some like
over a decade old.
I think it got to this point where people were like, oh, that's overdone, you can't do it because it's The Sixth Sense, and so like I didn't expect it to happen because I was like, oh, just no one does that anymore.
Yeah, right. And that's time is past.
Well, it's like The Matrix. Like you can't. Like, everyone knows that's the Matrix plot. You can't, like, well, you could, but if you did it in a really different
you would have to really pull it off.
Yeah.
This book. I did, when I kept reading it, she kept describing the, like, different house names, and I couldn't for the life of me remember any of them.
I'm still having
to flip to the beginning.
I know we're like, Cuddle Down. That's what that was my favorite.
I wanted to say Cuddle Down, something, but I couldn't remember.
I think it was because I couldn't stand the name Cuddle Down.
Cuddle Down.
That sounds so bad.
No, I like the like map that has like all the houses and.
Yeah, it's really well done. Like it's really cool. But
I don't have that.
Ooh, pretty.
That's one of those paper books. That's cool.
Oh, that's so cute.
I totally skipped over that in my eagerness to read.
I will say that even though the whole dead the whole time thing was, you know, a little bit of a disappointment to me, the fire, like even when they said that he tore the house down and rebuilt it, I had no idea that it was burnt down.
Yeah.
Like that was a complete surprise. Like I thought he tore it down out of grief. Like the whole thing of the going crazy over all of the valuables.
Why it did so well is that it had multiple twists. When you did it was kind of like a slow reveal to the ending.
After I got to the fire twist, I thought that was it. Like I wasn't expecting anything.
But then there was the dog
twist.
Which destroyed me, and then the next twist after that.
I remember after I like finished reading it, I sat there like, what idiot would start the fire before she saw them come out?
I know.
But she was drunk, and it was
the fire on the first floor first.
What idiot would burn a house down?
Yeah,
very true.
For arson.
That's why I wonder if she was like initially a little unstable too.
Yes.
I think the whole family is unstable.
Yeah, when you read about them, there was so much repressed everything.
And
then when it all kind of surfaced, it was like, we're going crazy right now. Everything is released all in one go with burning this house down and making ourselves in the process.
Although, like when I read descriptions of the aunts and then the dad and her mom, like, all fighting and scrapping, like, that made me angry, too. So, in a way, I sympathize with her, like, want to lash out, but the whole arson thing is, like, way
burning
too
down
far.
your grandparents' house is a way to lash out.
Way too quickly. It was, 1 or 2 steps, and then, how about we burn the house down? Great.
It was a very...
Let me grab the gun.
It was a gradual jump to burning the house down. Like, it literally was a part 4, the fire. Turn the page. It
was a drunk teenager jump to burn the house.
Yeah. Well, in a way, it'd been building up over the summer and then they were going to take everybody away, and that was going to be the end of their summer.
Yeah, it was like a desperate, drunk, last-minute decision of anger piling up, and then it was like, what if we just burn it down, take away what they're fighting over, and then they have to keep us here because.
And I think also she's really like spoiled and rich, basically unbalanced and used to getting her way in a way as well, and not getting in trouble for these things. So someone raised like that maybe would jump right to.
I mean, she still didn't get in trouble. She burned down the house.
Yeah.
Killed everyone. That's true.
And they all know, like. They don't know for sure, but they all pretty much know, like, we know that
that was interesting, I think, when it wasn't revealed until the end that she had burns on her feet or her hands. Because, like, if it's first person, like, wouldn't you see that and notice that you have scars? So that's one thing that kind of, like, pulled me
or
out a little bit.
Like, even, like, I don't look at the bottom of my feet that often, or ever. So I wouldn't necessarily see it, but I think like I would feel it. You would feel walking on it or something, or like the ground, like.
Well, the bottom of her pants were on fire, so even like her ankles had to have had some type of scarring.
Yeah.
And I think if she could like block out the entire memory of the thing that had happened, it would be very easy to also block out.
Yeah. Well, there's also the fact that her mom told her what happened multiple times, and she forgot it every time. So yeah.
So I'm just
she could see the bottoms of her feet and forget it, like by the end of the day, you know.
But she has, from what I remember reading, they were on her hands too. Maybe I missed that.
Yeah, they were, because her hands are bandaged as well.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have the same cover as I do, but the blurb I'm just rereading. It's from John Green, but I don't know if he meant to do this. I'm gonna read it out loud. Thrilling, beautiful, and blisteringly smart. We Were Liars is utterly unforgettable. There are two puns in there. Unforgettable, she gets into their memory, and it's blisteringly smart.
I feel like you did it on purpose.
Totally too soon to start making jokes about kids. Fires. Right on the cover. There's your hint.
Yeah. He's trying to give it away.
He's like, what if I wrote this? Like, no, that'll spoil it. Will it? People say blisteringly smart all the time. But this is especially appropriate.
Going back to the scars thing, though, I think she always knew something terrible had happened. Like, there was never any doubt that something bad had happened. But it was just like her brain couldn't physically handle, or mentally, not physically, couldn't mentally handle like what had literally happened. And so I think
and she also probably didn't want to explore it too far. Like if she got close to that like terrible thing, it's kind of like, oh, or we'll just stay back here in the not knowing part of the brain where it's easier. And we don't know you burned everybody to death.
We definitely got some type of insight into her being mentally unstable even before the accident happened, because her mother, even before, is constantly telling her to be normal. And I think one of the things was, you know, she tells her, act normal because you can. And like she kept telling herself that over and over again. And I was like, okay, so maybe that plays into the twist somehow. But that turned out just to be, you know, a pre-existing condition.
Sort of,
I just took that as more of a like, oh, we're the Sinclairs, we have to be, we don't break down in public.
We're never upset, everything's always fine. We're cheering.
It reminded me of... I read this after just coming off of watching Gossip Girl, but it reminded me a lot of that show, like the family dynamics did.
Yeah, that rich people putting up a really perfect.
Where the Waldorfs, and
don't penetrate it because it's just a lot of terrible things once you get past the.
Waldorf salad.
They invented the salad.
Genius.
Gotta keep up appearances then.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I'm also admiring the formatting now as I look at it. I'm a bit of a...
Yeah.
I thought it was... Wait, let's flip to an... Well, I spoiled it, but the formatting in it is really nice and pretty.
Well, the writing's almost like poetry, so some of it is almost in verse, which I found really interesting.
I thought it was really interesting, too, because like you mentioned earlier, it wasn't like over-the-top flowery writing, but it was still in that prose.
It was
kind
still
of
there
verse.
enough that you noticed, but yeah.
It was
you
so
just pulled
different to
through.
read
Yeah.
that I was like, this is smart. It's like when I first read Shatter Me, and I know a lot of people have different opinions on the writing there, but it was kind of that, like, how it was divided and how the paragraph breaks worked and all of that.
It got the disjointed thoughts across, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it was like really clean and concise. It was like a compressed version of that style of like strip away all the fancy and just keep it to the, which I think really helped with the character and her voice and that development there, because it was really bare bones and kind of, it didn't tell you a lot, which also helped hide the secrets. Later.
Yeah, there was no backstory dumping.
Yeah, there's definitely no info dump.
No. Less than I would have actually liked, but that's sort of the
Drips
point.
and drabs of like drama bombs of your family was fighting a lot.
So here's a question for you guys. Like, I know that there's like a lot of metaphors, and especially with her headaches and like her, you know, the father pulling out the gun and shooting her. It's mentioned a few times that Gat, it's like Gat seeing me bleed, asking me questions, stressing my wounds. So, what were your takes on that? Was that just a figurative?
I thought
bleeding
that she
out, or was
actually
that
was.
literally?
I thought she was actually self-harming at times.
Okay, because that's the vibe I got too.
But
Like, I didn't get a figurative
there
vibe
is
from
that line of, is this real or is it not? Which, again, plays into the unreliable narrator, and you're always questioning, like, if you're right about your guesses. So, but I did take it as literally, like, he was actually dressing wounds.
It's funny because I totally didn't.
Yeah,
Like,
I didn't either.
I totally just thought it was
But it
more
makes
metaphors.
sense.
Yeah, but it does make sense. Totally.
It could be a little bit of literal and metaphorical wounds of like how she was upset with her family and her dad leaving, and there were those wounds to dress, but then there was also like
Doesn't she
actual
cut
wounds and
herself
stuff.
on glass at some point though? And he does? Or
Yeah,
am
I think
I thought she did, but maybe not. I don't know.
I remember her getting cut on something. I think it was the lemonade bottles or something.
Because the house was like a mess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was for one person to make that much of a mess. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I mean, like the ghost can't make that big of a mess, right?
Maybe they can if they were actually.
Yeah,
I
maybe
think
they
they
could do
did though. I think that they were maybe part of that because unless again it played into the whole were they really ghosts or were they all in her head? Because
I
when
think
you were
they
up
were.
on the roof, like she always talked about how she didn't eat a lot, she didn't drink a lot. Like it was all them that was doing, you know, most of
I
the
really
activity.
think they were actual ghosts because of. And the only reason I think this is because of the kid saying he was scared at night because the house made funny noises. That's why I think they're real. If he hadn't said that, I would just be like, yeah, totally her imagination.
But yeah, and the house he said that about was the one that they were in.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that was deliberate, and I think that means that they were like actually there and not in her imagination.
I always prefer actual ghosts to imagination in stories. I get so excited when I go, yes!
Well, and also, like, it feels like, I feel like when I have something, when I've read something and then I find out it was all in that person's head, like I was a little bit lied to there, which is funny because it's the theme of the book. But I didn't feel like that in We Were Liars because she was still interacting with them and she was still hugging Gat and she was still having moments with them. They were dead, but it was still happening and it wasn't all, and it was all in her imagination and she woke up and none of it was real.
Yeah.
Like, I would rather
I
have them
didn't-
be actual ghosts.
Yeah, see, but that, for me, the Fight Club kind of, like, threw me off for that, because in the Fight Club, he was literally fighting, you know, this alternate personality in his head. Like, he drove to places thinking that it was Tyler driving there, but it was, you know, obviously it was really him. But, like, I think that was always an option for me towards the end. But it was either they were dead or they were in her head, so.
But I agree with that. I'm so glad it wasn't just like, oh, that was all some dream, or it was all...
Yeah.
Like, if you do the whole it was all in your head thing, you have to do it really, really, really well to not annoy me, because there is that sense of, like, you liar.
That's how I feel with
I mean...
the whole time thing. I feel like you just need to wow me if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know so much as like, oh, you lied to me. Like, there's a good the author lied to me, and a bad the author lied to me.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, I felt it was good. But if it had been like, oh, it was all in your head and they were never actually there, then I would feel like it would be bad and I'd be annoyed at the end.
There were just too many things that would have been unexplained, I think, if it wasn't like more like actual ghosts and not like they're the ghosts of your past.
If that was the case, I think that there would have to have been another twist as well if they were in her head. So you get that initial like, oh, they're in her head, but then like something else about that happened, and you're like, I didn't see that coming. So like you kind of have to have a twofold with something that's been done so much.
Yeah.
But one thing that I would have loved to seen elaborated a little bit more was when she saw her Aunt Carrie in the middle of the night. And she was talking about, Johnny, and apparently her aunt saw Johnny because she asked, have you seen Johnny? And it's like, he's up when I'm up sometimes. Do you see him?
Oh,
but
my
then when
God.
she asked her about it, but then she asked her Aunt Carrie about it the next day, and she was like, what are you talking about?
Oh, my God.
Well, to me, I always got the sense that she was more sleepwalking.
I think that's what it is, because she did see it once more time.
Wow.
Maybe
I think she was sleepwalking.
I took it as like the aunts all know that she didn't know what had happened, and that they kind of got what was going on with her. That she's like, that's kind of how I took it. But
that seems scary. I felt like she was sleepwalking, and she was also mentally unstable a little bit too. Like, because you could see how like multiple characters were like really affected and traumatized by the tragedy. Like the grandfather was like, and Aunt Carrie was like messed up and like sleepwalking. And
one of the visions that she remembered was her Aunt Carrie holding one of Johnny's blue jackets, and crying. But the thing that really threw me off, and I'm just remembering it, is out of nowhere she started talking about parallel universes, and I'm like, all right, is that where we're going with this?
I don't remember that.
It was out of nowhere. I have to find it, but it was really like literally out of nowhere she started talking about multiple universes. When they jumped.
Well, that could partially sort of reaffirm the like actual ghost thing of kind of like planting that seed of like they're on a different plane than us. It's like a different universe, but
see, to me that was a complete throw off. Like that was implanted here to throw you off, because after that happened, and then she saw the image of her aunt holding the jacket, and then this with her Aunt Carrie, saying, I've seen Johnny. And I'm like, okay, are the liars in a different universe? And like she's still stuck here? Like, what is going on? Like I thought it was something cosmic.
Interesting.
That was it.
What did you guys think of the fairy tales she was telling, like the stories of the princesses that she would rewrite over and over again?
I was looking for clues in them.
Yeah, me too. Like, I was just like, what the hell is
happening?
My favorite one was the last one, and that gave you the clue.
Yeah.
Where it was the mouse, which there was always a mouse in every single one that had superhuman abilities. So I wanted to read into that a little bit more too. And the mouse always had to leave the palace to live a normal life. But then the last one, when the mouse is like walking back, and he was like, and maybe one day, I'm going to come back and burn the place to the ground. And like that's what actually happened.
Yeah.
Like,
I like that one, and I like the one like at the very, very end after she figures out everything. Because I like the part where she says, like, she's telling the story, she's like, the children died in a fire, all except one. Only one was left, and no, that's not right. The children died in a fire, all except 3 girls and 2 boys. There were 3 girls and 2 boys left. And I liked that moment. Like, I liked that about the story and the ending, and how she's like, because she kind of, I don't know, part of like her trauma is that she feels very alone because her cousins are all gone and everything, and then she like kind of has this like realization at the very end that, wait a second, like, I'm not the only one left. Like, I still have cousins left, and I still have friends left. Yeah. And I thought that was like cool, along with the fact that her mom was constantly trying to like push her to hang out with the younger cousins and make her realize, like, and how her mom kind of saw that would help her heal, to like realize that she wasn't alone.
It's funny because throughout the book I was like really irritated with the mother and like really didn't like her, and then towards the end I was like, okay, I'm starting to understand some of her behavior and sympathizing with her. And like that text I sent Megan, I was like, after I finished it, I was like, the poor mother, like, she's just watching her daughter like basically be crazy. Like, her daughter's just spending all this time in this big house by herself, claiming she's hanging out with her cousins who are dead, and like, does she ever actually say that to her mother, that she's hanging out?
I never got the impression that
there is a part Where
Yeah, I'm
she
pretty sure
says, like,
she
I
says
saw
something
them in
about
the
that.
house.
Yeah.
She says that. Okay, so they.
Is there?
I'm pretty sure she mentions that she's hanging out with them.
Because I never remember. I don't remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I know there was a part
I
where
think I
like
remember it.
she fully asks the little cousins, and like Mirren read in
And
a
then the
story.
little boy
and
is always like, we're not supposed to talk about last summer. And then like they completely change the subject.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I'm always like, just say something, kid.
Right.
Give me a hint here.
I'm like, you're the most. You can tell us. It's okay. I won't tell you.
Just tell us. No one will have to know.
Yet I don't know if you guys noticed, but I knew that she didn't go out for a swim, that she actually dove when the accident really happened, because the imagery is the same exact way when she dove off after the ghost dove off than in the beginning when she had the vision. Like when she said, the shock of water is electric. My legs scrape rock, my left leg, I plunge down to the rocky bottom, and I see the base of the beechwood island. And she talks about how her fingers are cold and slices of seaweed go between her fingers. Like that's the same exact
that was also
imagery.
another thing I thought somehow the twist was going to be that she had drowned, or that she had almost drowned and someone drowned trying to save her.
That's
or
totally what I thought too.
Because there was that water imagery, but also that throws you off from the fire imagery of like what actually happened.
The water was what saved her
I
from the
think
fire.
the repetitiveness was definitely like a theme throughout the book.
Oh yeah.
Like, it always describes Gat with like, the same 3 adjectives, and it's very like, this is what he was then, and he will be this forever because he's not here.
And it was
This is what
it
that
felt like it
water will
was
be.
done with purpose and not just like, okay, can we use something else to describe him?
But it was that they were static characters. They couldn't change. Yeah.
It was. I think that was a literary tone of it, that she was able to get away with doing it, and she did it very well.
Yeah, and I like the part where they do and I was puzzled by this at the time, but now of course when I look back I realize when they set out to in the canoe and they're telling her she can't come, and then she does come and they all jump off the big cliff, and then they're freaking out when she wants to jump off because they can jump off because it doesn't matter, they're already dead, right? But they know she's the only one that shouldn't jump off. So at the time I was like, what's the big deal? You guys all did it, right? But
that's why I thought like they died jumping off the cliff, or she almost died jumping off the cliff, or something.
Yeah,
like
I was
at that
wondering
point
that
I was pretty sure that they were dead. So I'm like, so you guys jumped. So did she almost die? You guys died, like, were you impaled on the rocks or something?
Yeah, and
It's also
another
interesting
thing that, like, thinking back on it, I realized should have tipped me off was when she goes to the mainland with Mirren, and she's back, and, like, the parents freak out because she was driving the boat. And, and like, when I read it, I was like, well, how do they know Mirren didn't drive the boat? Like, why doesn't she lie and tell them that Mirren drove the boat and that she wasn't driving? And then it's like, oh, it's because, like, Mirren's not alive.
She was out alone on that boat.
Yeah, she was alone on the boat, and that's why they freaked out.
Yeah. Another interesting thing is Mirren was getting sicker and sicker, hey?
Yeah, that was one thing that always stuck in my head.
That was one of the reasons I told Kelly. I was like, well, because ghosts, it's too much energy to keep being like.
America knows more about ghosts than I do.
I was arguing this like, no, because you get like, if it's, you have to be visible, and if they're actually moving things and making a mess out of the house, you know, they're using all this energy to be visible and not make her know how crazy she is. They're gonna get tired and sick of doing it because it's so much energy.
Erica figured it out because she's like a ghost expert. I'm like, ghosts don't get sick. So
she has one-on-one experience with that.
It happens.
Yeah, Erica has experience with ghosts. Kaylin is a huge supernatural fan.
Can't fool me.
Yes, and that's why I picked it up, because there's a big plot in Supernatural where they have to learn to use their energy to move objects. So I'm like, maybe.
See? It's a lot of energy. Especially being visible for so long. Come on, give them a break.
There's one thing in here that I didn't really figure out why they were saying this, and I believe this happened even before the accident happened, it's when her and Gat went up into the attic before they had their kiss. And one of the descriptions, it says, we had been in the attic before. Also, we had never been in the attic before. And then later, when she's looking at him, which the second one's more understandable, is when they're both looking at each other, and she's talking about his facial features, and then she says, you know, like, also, like, I've never seen him before, which I can understand that because, you know, you look at someone, you know, for so long, they start to look like a different person. Like maybe he turned into a different person because she's falling in love with him. But like that first one with the attic, that really threw me off. Like I had no idea what was going on.
There were some phrasing, specifically just the one with the gunshot in the beginning.
Gun really got
I was really confused, and I'm like, wait. So I had to, even though it was a short book, there were times that I had to spend like 10 minutes on a page. Just going like,
well, I just dismissed it as like, because at first I thought she'd been shot too, but then I was like, oh, it's a literary book, and then just moved on.
And I think with the attic example and the attic example and the face example, she does say at the very beginning that she likes a turn of phrase. And like, so I think that was kind of that thing with both of them. It was like, yeah, we've been in the attic before, but it's never been like this, you know. And we've never seen him before, but I've never looked at him in this way before. Yeah. So like, that's like very much her character, is that she likes to turn things like that.
There were those times though that I had to kind of wait and be like,
yeah, it's true.
Go back once and read it, make sure you're understanding, because it's a short book and you don't want to like get really confused when there's so few words. You want to understand all of them.
Gun one though.
The gun.
I was like, so that's a twist?
That's what I mean.
Just a little.
It was like, I am 5 pages in, and I'm like, what the hell is happening already?
That's the other twist, but it happened so early, nobody expects it.
What did you guys think of all of the emails that she was sending them? Every single email started out with like, my father ate this in this place. And like I thought it was just like a conversation piece. But then like she gets to, I think it's Mirren is wanted to read all of the drafts that she had sent her. So they're in the house reading it. And the last line in one of the emails that she sent to Mirren is, I wonder if I can make Dad eat the most disgusting foods of every country we visit as penance for his running off to Colorado. And it's like, I bet I can. If he really loves me, he'll eat frogs and kidneys and chocolate-covered ants. And, like, he literally ate all of those things. Like, that's why she started out everything with that he ate, because of that. And, like, I really liked that, how it was all, like, tied up a little bit.
Yeah. I think that was definitely a big, like, wait, what the heck is going on here when she asked to read all the emails. Like, at first you just think she's, like, pissed or something, like, really terrible has happened. Then it's like, wait a minute.
Like, maybe she never actually sent them because she was still in that, like, unstable position that she thought she was sending them.
I kept wondering, like, why Gat. I kept wondering why Gat had never visited her, and she, like, really emphasized that. But did the other cousins visit her in the hospital after her accident?
No.
So she never emphasized that. She just kept saying, Gat didn't visit me, Gat didn't visit me. Not the other.
He ran away,
Because she loves him.
Well, because I kind of just assumed the other ones had visited her, and Gat had been the only one who didn't, and that's why she was so mad. Like,
and that was things that like threw you off. But it wasn't
but they're tied to the island. They can't leave.
But at the time we thought they were alive, and she focuses so much on Gat didn't visit me, she didn't realize that the cousins didn't visit her either.
Yeah, exactly. And of course my brain was like, Gat's done something to her, and that's why he...
I think that's what
misdirect right there.
Yeah, one misdirections.
For sure.
Clever sleight of hands.
I marked this, and this is one of the kind of things that stick with me after a book. Who unironically calls it sexual intercourse? Like, that's what she kept saying, that Mirren kept saying that she had sexual intercourse, and I'm like, okay, no, you didn't.
I know that there are some people who are very, like, they're very, like, not clinical about it, but kind of, like, they think it's a mature way to say it. So they're like, I'm going to say it like this because it makes me sound more, like, mature, not, like, all gooey.
Like Sheldon Cooper?
Yeah.
What does he call it again? Coitus?
He called it coitus.
Coitus.
It's a lovely word. There were things like that where I'm like, did something happen to Mirren specifically? Like, I had, for a long time, I'm like, they're dead. But then I was like, what if there's, like, other things on top of them being dead? Like, something else happened before they died. And then it was the fire. And I was like, oh, maybe they're not dead. And I was like, they are dead. Maybe something happened before the fire. No, it was just the fire. The fire's enough, Erica. Calm down.
Don't get too out of it here.
He wasn't
like it's fake. I like how, Kaylin, you took notes and stuff. I want to start doing that because I really think there's a huge difference between reading something and then reading something like with a critical eye, and I want to start doing that for like my writing too.
I don't suggest it. I really don't, because I'm constantly thinking, if I didn't look at it so critically, would I have liked it? Would it be a 4-star rating instead of a 3?
Or at least don't do it with books that you want to be surprised by.
Yeah.
Right.
Or
Like, going into a book that you know there's a twist ending, just don't read into it.
A lot of people, like, especially with a book like this, you can read it once for enjoyment and then another time to be critical.
To pick up all of the things
Yeah.
that happen.
I think I'm double checking now, but I think when I read it, I updated it just on Goodreads to take notes. Or that's what I try to do usually, because I don't want to be like super critical while I'm reading, because if that reminds me too much of school, and then I start to hate the book even if it's great. So I just take notes like of updating where I am and be like, whoa. I
really feel like that's why, like, I want to go through and I'm going to look at all of the books that we've done for book club and look at my ratings and see like what my average is, because I really feel like I'm always the one that's lower than everyone else.
Caitlin, we need to let you pick a book for book club.
Yeah.
We need to pick something you've already read, and the rest of us can read it.
just like
See,
my
Fangirl is a
Goodreads.
good example of that. Like, I mean, I think I would have liked Fangirl regardless, but that's a book I read before we decided to do it, and I loved that book. But then again, I really love the Diviners, however you say it. I really love Water, Smoke, and Bone. So there are exceptions to the rule, but
I think that all of the rest of
They're
us,
spectacular exceptions.
we're very gushy, so we need someone that balances us out.
We need a Simon Cowell.
I get just so much Simon Cowell. No book is terrible.
Well, we wouldn't review a book that was terrible.
Well,
I mean, for me personally,
There
3
are a
stars
few.
is a good rating for me. I mean, it means I enjoy the book. I just didn't love the book.
I just look my Goodreads. I have a 5-star rating, and I updated a couple of times, but I didn't take notes. Maybe I was worried about spoiling people.
I don't
But
take notes on Goodreads anymore.
At 89%, I wrote "knew it" with like 1,000 exclamation marks after it. So that was on page 203.
Because of my internship, where I'm like really critically reading stuff once a week, like a whole book, I have to try really, really hard to just like not take any notes, not try to think ahead too much,
just
because
enjoy
it's really easy for me to like, oh well, this book is terrible because of this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
And I can't believe so and so picked it up, and
Well, I noticed that. I
then
think
I
in
get
order
bitter.
I think in order to give books a fair shake, like I tried reading the middle book in the selection series, like I told you guys before, as an ebook format, but my brain sees a screen and goes into editing mode.
Yeah.
So when I read that, I was like really harshly critical in my own brain, but then I went on to read the next book in paperback, and I was like, I love this! There's a huge difference on screen, and so I just need to stick
There
with paperback.
really is.
But there also is definitely like, if I'm in editing mode, regardless of what format I read it on, I'm gonna be like, no, this needs to change. I would have worded it like this.
See, to me,
Like, stop, just enjoy it, just read it, calm down.
and that's part of the reason why I think we always say you have to read to write better. Because for me, I could be so into a book, but if I get to one sentence that, like, personally I would restructure, it makes me want to write. So, like, I'll put down the book and I'll start writing my own stuff just because I'm in that mode, just by one sentence.
Well, that's
And that
also
really
why I
helps.
want to start doing that, reading critically and taking notes. I mean, once for pleasure and then once for taking notes. Because other writers have told me this is how they become good writers, and I haven't done that yet. So I don't know.
I've done it for taking notes, but I usually do the note-taking, like I'll highlight while I'm reading the first time, but it's more like lines that I love, and I'm like, ooh, so I highlight that. But if I go back to read it a second time, I'll take notes or like pay more attention. But for the first time through, I just want to enjoy it. Like, I mostly just read to enjoy fiction and things that aren't real. So the first time through, I'm usually just like, I really, really want to like it, and I'll ignore things that I don't like about it, which is why the very first time I read Twilight, I'm like, yeah, awesome. And then the second time, I'm like,
wait a minute.
that I would like to address, but
I think that I would read critically more books that I really loved, just to see like how they did it, rather than like pulling books apart. But like, how does my favorite author make me cry or like laugh? Or
Like Harry
The
Potter,
Diviners
it
I've read, like,
stands up in every book.
Exactly.
yeah, the Diviners I've read a bunch to try to figure out how Just how.
How she does it, yeah.
Nothing else.
This is the point of view.
But if I get too much into
That's
that,
the
it's just like
person.
depressing. It's like I will never.
Yeah.
Libba Bray, she's so good.
Exactly.
Speaking of Libba Bray, I
She
noticed
like sold part of her soul to someone.
for real. I noticed in the acknowledgments for We Were Liars that E. Lockhart is friends with Libba Bray.
What?
Jealous.
The acknowledgments are like a big name drop. She's like friends with like all the famous YA writers. It's like Scott Westerfeld, Robin Wasserman, John Green,
Gail
Alan Carter,
Foreman.
Gail
They
Foreman,
hang
Libba
out,
Bray.
guys. Didn't you
How
know?
do you
Like,
friend?
Yeah, the New
Oh,
York City
All of you.
others.
How do I join this
You.
group?
like Marie Johnson's like, hey, I'm just vlogging for my buddy John Green.
Yeah.
It makes me want to cry because I want to hang out with you guys so bad.
Well, like in her acknowledgments, she's like, "Thanks, Scott Westerfeld, for proofreading my manuscript." And you're like,
What?
Jeez.
They must meet
Oh
each
my
other. They must meet all of each other at like conferences
Oh, yeah,
and
totally.
Yeah, well, I was listening to Libba Bray on First Draft Podcast, and she, when she moved to New York, I think it was Scott Westerfeld invited her, like, the New York City big-time authors, they, like, meet once a week or once a month or something.
yeah, their little clique.
Yeah, so they just go and, like,
so
hang out.
wanna
Like,
hang out.
Little guys.
Gonna crash their party.
I
Find
feel
out
like
what
if
it
you,
means.
I feel like if you
Yeah.
just meet them at a conference, they're not going to be like, hey, you're cool, let's be friends. They're just like, thanks for reading my books. I'm like, you're welcome. I love you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll just walk away.
I feel like I would, like, sit down and be like, I'm 23, do you want to be my friend?
We could be best friends.
No, guys, we have each other. We're all bestsellers. People are
True.
gonna be like, did you guys know they're all
Yes,
friends?
we're going to be in the
Yeah.
acknowledgements for all of our books.
I will drop
We're
all
in
of
the
them
be
in.
like-
acknowledgements of
Okay.
Americans. I got, like, emotional. America's book.
I think you all are in sight too.
What?
It's like the one I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, I remember finding
Oh.
myself in that
Right.
weekly. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, that's me.
This is we could, yeah, we'll be those people who are like, wow, they are all published and
They're all
and they're friends. So
They're
And
like,
then
Erin
we'll,
Latimer
like, meet in
proofread her
person.
manuscript. What?
we will make it so.
It's already so. Screw that. We don't have to make it anything. It is what it is.
Now we just have to all get under one hotel roof. And
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
just havoc will be reaped. Kelly and I already talked about if we go to Canada, we're going to buy a grocery cart, and by we I mean like all of us, in her grocery store, buy a cart of bagged milk, lay it on her driveway for me to roll down. Part of our
Yes.
activities are already planned.
I will contribute to the bag milk funds just to watch you
Yeah.
do that.
I'm so excited.
I'm ready to shill out however much a grocery cart of milk or a driveway of milk will cost.
I think you should strap it to yourself and then roll
Yeah.
down.
it'd be
What if I
cheaper to
strap it to
yourself
myself and I
in
pull
it.
like a
Retirement.
Parks and Rec? You know when Andy had all the water balloons
Yeah.
on the Cosby?
Yeah.
But with like milk?
That's Chris.
But with milk. You should do it.
Milk
So the
bag.
bottom line of what
milk
we're saying
bag
is
suit.
read this book.
Yeah.
I just wanted to take a second. The book looks so pretty naked. It's like
Wow.
It does. When I read books, like
That-
even sitting here
the
through
inside
it, the
looks
jacket
like
is pissing me off really bad. I love taking it off, and the silver is beautiful.
The silver
Hey.
spine is just like
backwards. Why
Yes.
is it backwards?
beautiful.
I'm gonna have to
So
strip
pretty.
the cover off my book.
I love it.
I can only
Like, I
read
really-
with the covers off, so
Really?
Yes, I hate.
yeah.
I'm
I hate
afraid of breaking them or
This.
bending them. So, yeah.
My mom is like
It's
that.
annoying.
My mom has
they
books
slide
that she
out
like.
so much, and I just.
It bugs me because my mom has like books that she's read a lot of times, so she's just gotten rid of the covers. 'Cause she's like,
No!
keep reading it, and I don't like to have the cover. I'm like, Mom, why did you do that?
Like, I have the cover of Cruel Beauty up there, but the book is right here in my hand.
Look, it's so pretty.
Which is a nice transition. We'll wrap up this chat now. We've been going about an hour. So, bottom line is, We Were Liars was interesting and sometimes unexpected, depending on how critically you're
You
reading.
ask.
We all kind of agreed that the voice was unique, even if the concept wasn't, and how it was all handled was really well done.
And I think we all agree that even if you guess what's going to happen, you still question it. Like
you're still like,
Yeah,
but
there's
am I
constant
right?
doubt.
And especially when the twists plural start to be revealed, you're kind of like, oh.
Yeah, I still think that if you think the ultimate twist at the end, like if you puzzle that out and figure it out, there'll still be other twists before that will knock you off your feet that you
that
didn't
works
see
really
coming.
well.
Yeah.
You get like the ultimate twist, and then you have to like read how it all went down. It's like, oh.
And then you reread it again, and you're like, look at all these hints she dropped that I might have missed. If you're, like the first time through, you might miss things, and then you go back, and even I had missed things the first time through, and I'm like, oh, that was a hint. There's a hint. There's a hint. You just go and post-it note all the hints and see how many there are total. But pretty much everybody, 3, 4, 5 stars were all above the bad. It was good to great. We were liars. I mean, we spoiled it for you, so you hopefully already read it.
Unless you only watched the first 30 seconds and are now skipping to the end.
Yeah, if you're watching this, you should read this and not watch the rest of the beginning of this before you finish it. And next month, our book club is Cruel Beauty. Look at that. This is a naked cover, and it's shiny and
the actual cover is also beautiful.
Yeah, the actual cover is so pretty. It's up there, but
there in the corner.
Look at that. It's got like a rose with a staircase. And a dress, and I think it's...
And she's running, and...
It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, right? That's what I...
Yeah, with
Beauty and the Beast
Rumpelstiltskin flavor.
It's like Beauty and the Beast with some Rumpelstiltskin, with some Bluebeard, with some Greek mythology. It's got kind of everything.
Ooh, I like it.
It's amazing.
I can't wait to start it. I'm going to start it tomorrow morning. I'm going to wake up early so I can read it before I have to do writing and school stuff.
It's good. Alert. I'm going to buy it. So I'll ask physical copy.
I really want the paperback, but because you just showed me the inside...
Paperback's not out yet.
So pretty.
I was going to buy the paperback.
Oh, paperback is
the hardcover.
Okay.
Yeah, the paperback comes out in April, so I'm like, hardcover it is, but it's
that little flower right there is enough to... I want the hardcover because of that.
Yep.
And it's like shiny.
I love that.
Beautiful.
It's so pretty. Look at it. So, Cruel Beauty by
Rosamund Hodge.
Rosamund Hodge. Look at that. Everybody else knows it. End of January, February. I forgot the months. It's fine. Pick that up, start reading now, and we can talk to you about it at the end of next month. Have a great week, Word Nerds. Thank you for joining us for this live chat, and we will see you next Sunday. Good night.
Bye.
And bye.